So hello everyone, welcome to this small session by Sunya IAS. Now this is in our ongoing series on modern Indian history's terminologies oriented towards your prelims upcoming examination in 2023. Now this is obviously the part of the high yielding topics which we are covering, and the one thing which you need to understand is that first lecture has already been done. If you haven't watched it, please go and check it out. Over there we discussed about some of the topics, some of the important terminologies which is all over the news, but people always get confused that what it actually means. So we have done that, we have covered that, and now we are going to talk about the terminologies in the section of Mughal and Maratha Empire. Okay, so Mughal and Maratha administration, empire, their territories, there is a lot of topics. So this whole section will be covered in two lectures, two small lectures, not a single 2 hours lecture, but a smaller part of 2 lectures. That is how we're going to proceed. Now, before proceeding over there, I would like to remind you again, there is this ongoing crash course series by Sunya IAS for the 2023 examination, and it's really well prepared. It will really help you a lot in your preparation. Not only the classes for all the topics are there oriented in a small time period, but you will also get the small booklets. Usually the booklets are lesser than 100 pages, making sure that you'll have if you'll even start right now, you will be in a position to complete them on time for your examination. So that is how we are approaching this. So make sure that the link is down in the list. Okay, you can approach and you can check out the classes over there. Now let's proceed and let's start with the Mughal and the Maratha first part. Now before even approaching, let's start this thing, and let me tell you something which is very important. That is in CSE Civil Service Examination previous year's question in 2021, they asked a question, and the question was very specific. That was, with reference to medieval history, which one of the following is correct sequence in ascending order in terms of size? Okay, now this question was asked in medieval history, but this thing and again mentioned in modern history. So when you read your Bipin Chandra, the old NCERT, in the very first chapter, where the disintegration of Mughal Empire is very essential part, over there they have now discussed in great detail that what was actually the structure of the Mughal Empire. Okay, so that's why although it is mentioned about the medieval history, but it's there in the modern history book, so that's why we are covering it here. Okay, so now the question is about the territories, the system of provinces and all that of Mughal Empire. The options are Pargana, Sarkar, Suba, Pargana, Sarkar, Suba, Sarkar, Pargana, Suba, Suba, Sarkar, Pargana, Pargana, Suba, Sarkar. Okay, now how you will answer this very question? For this you need to have a very basic understanding what is a Pargana, what is a Sarkar, what is a Suba. I hope a lot of you must have heard about there is a district, there is a place in West Bengal called as 24 Pargana, 24 Parganas, 24 Pargana it is called. It's officially a district in Bengal. It must be having its name from there only, so we'll be looking into those things. It's very important. So let's start and let's discuss about this thing. This is very important. Now, just for your understanding, this is the order of the things. For answering that question, you needed to know the whole hierarchy of structure. Like right now we have what in India, we have our country, as a union of state, a country of ours, India. Then we have states within the country. Now within the states, then there are commissionerates, and usually in the commissionerate then there are districts. Then districts have towns and towns have village. That's a further smaller section, because now the population is so huge that you need more and more divisions. But back in the day that was not the case. If you had up till somewhat called as district level thing, you could have handled thing well enough, and then came directly the villages, and that is what the Mughals did. So you will see over here that Sultanate is there. Sultanate is something which was a term to be used for the nation, for the country, from the Delhi Sultanate period. That is from the time when the Turkish started ruling Delhi, somewhere in 11th and 12th century, 12th century actually, that period. Okay, so 1192 onwards, when the Turkish started, after second battle of Tehran, they started coming in Delhi and started controlling. Then the word Sultanate was being used. And after 1206, Delhi Sultanate term was extensively used because Qutb-ud-Din Aibak started controlling it. Fine. From there, the Sultanate word went into the diction of the Mughals. And Mughals also, although they call their own king as Badshah and not the Sultan, but the Sultanate word stayed on. So Sultanate is something which you can compare with the idea of the country. Fine. Then you have Suba, and the word Suba is something which is quite equivalent to a province or a state in present day of time. Okay, province. You might have heard about Subedar, the word Subedar. The Subedar was nothing but the governor. You don't have to write these things. There is a link right below this video. Over there, a properly prepared PDF containing all the information you will be needing about these topics is written there. So you can just download it. Okay. Now, after the Suba, instead in the Suba, there is a thing called as Sarkar, which is not mentioned here because it doesn't align with the question. For the question you needed Suba, Pargana and Mahal. But there is one more thing, and that is called as Sarkar. Fine. In English diction, it is many a time is also written as Sirkar. In your modern Indian history, you might have heard about the word Northern Sarkar. That was the territory which the Nizam of Hyderabad ceded to the Britishers in 1766 itself. Okay. And it had that whole area of Machilipatnam and all that. So what are these Sarkars? Basically, the Nizam of Hyderabad had 5 Sarkars. So means Suba contains Sarkars. So what we can compare them with? Sarkars could be compared very easily with commissionerate. Okay, with commissionerates, which are there in today's time. Now the Sarkars have this smaller unit called as Pargana. So Pargana could be compared as somewhat, we can say, somewhere in between a district and a town, or we can also call it a district also. Okay, so that is something which is there, Pargana. And after that, Pargana, the smaller unit from there is Mahal, and Mahal is nothing but which is equivalent to present day village. We will also, in this terminology series, also will hear about the Mahalwadi system. That Mahalwadi system, the Mahal comes from here. Okay, the taxation pattern where the whole village comes together and pay the taxes. So you have to be very crystal clear that that is the Mughal idea of hierarchy of state naming convention and all that. Okay, if you knew this, you would have very easily answered that, look, Pargana, Sarkar, Suba, and Pargana is there, Sarkar is there, Suba is there. So actually the Suba is bigger than Sarkar and Sarkar is bigger than Pargana. So the very first option is correct because the question demand you have to put it in ascending order. If this question would have asked you to do it in descending order, then the answer would have been Suba, Sarkar and Pargana, this one. But right now over here the answer is A. This is how the questions are usually made. So the terms and the terminologies are very essential. Fine. Let's move to the next thing. Just give me a moment. Yeah. Mansabdari system. Now the Mansabdari system also is something which was important for you because it is from the Mughal empire's taxation system and all those things, and from the medieval history portion itself. But it is discussed on a huge level mostly in the modern times. It is discussed extensively in the modern time because again, one of the prime reason for disintegration of Mughal Empire prime reason for the disintegration of Mughal Empire is what? Is the decline or the inefficient economic or financial model or the bureaucratic model, and all these things goes into Mansabdari system. Now what is Mansabdari system? So just in a small section, if I have to explain you, all the government employees, for example, right now are called as civil servants. In present day and time, everyone, whether you are a grade A officer or a grade 4 officer, you will be called a civil servant. Back in the day, everyone was called a Mansabdar. And depending on your position in the hierarchy of the Mughal administration, you were given a rank. Okay. Now, since it was more of a military oriented, because expansionist state back in the medieval times, okay, so military officials were always on important positions. And you will see, therefore, in most of the cases, the Mansabdars had to perform a military oriented task. And along with that, they did everything else also sometime. For example, how the ranks are given, just a small example for you. Like for example, infantrymen, जो पैदल चलते हैं और लड़ते हैं, infantrymen, they used to have a rank of 10. Okay, the cavalrymen, that is the घोड़सवार, they used to be given a rank of 20. And subsequently there were Mahavats who used to handle the elephants, and the one who used to operate the camels. Depending upon which place the Mughal army, Mughal infantry was stationed, accordingly they used to use the weaponry and the animals and what else not. And accordingly the ranks were given. So first of all, when you were, a lot of people get confused in Mansabdari system, so you don't have to be oriented that I will just remember the number of rank. No, if you just remember the initial rank, that the minimum rank could be 10 and the maximum rank in the time of Akbar, when it was first introduced in 1570s and 1580s, okay, was 5,000, and that's why the senior most officials were called as 5,000 Mansabdar. And but by the time of Aurangzeb, you will see that there were even 7,000 Mansabdar, that is Mansabdars with a rank of 7,000. Now, how it actually works? So, suppose there is a 7,000 Mansabdar, a 7,000 Mansabdar Mansabdar with a rank of 7,000. So, you can understand that if one rank has 10, infantryman has 10 rank, how many he can maintain? Similarly, he will be having a lot of cavalrymen also. Infantryman, cavalryman, he has to maintain a lot of weaponry, and to maintain all this weaponry and these men who are going to be on the beck and call of the Badshah, he also needs a consistent source of finances, and therefore a Jagir, a huge amount of territory was allotted to these people. Okay, now they are not the one who are collecting the revenue from there. Okay, for that purposes, on the local level was a zamindar, and above the zamindar there was a jagirdar, and sometime below the zamindar there was a jotedar. Okay, but all this money was flowing through the Mansabdars. Mansabdars used to keep a part of it. Initially, they also had the responsibility to maintain the efficiency of the working of this local institutions, and they would keep some part of it, and left will be transferred to the treasury, that is Toshkhana, okay, of the Mughal Empire. That was the plan. Ultimately, this system became a lot more inefficient, so much so that even Aurangzeb, while he was in power, he started letting it go. For example, when he expanded his empire in Deccan, he made sure that Mansabdari system is not implemented in those areas, and he got the salaried employees to collect the revenue over there. So Mansabdari could be considered as a combination or an amalgamation of a civilian and military bureaucracy. That is something you should know. It's a combination of civilian and military bureaucracy. Fine. So keep that thing in mind. Now, let's move forward and let's talk about the Izaredari system. Now, the most important thing about this term, Izaredari system, is it's basically a bidding process for the right to collect revenue. Okay. Izaredari, a lot of students get confused from Iqtidari. Iqtidari is something which is extensively mentioned in your medieval history. It is the way, the means of revenue collection in the Delhi Sultanate period, not in the Mughal period. Now, Izaredari was something which was already mentioned in Mughal text code from 1580s itself, although it was never used. And this is where you will understand that why it is important. Because all the great Mughals, right from Babur to Aurangzeb, there were 6. And these great Mughals knew it very well that Izaredari system does what? It develops a system in which whenever a piece of territory has to be allotted to a zamindar for the revenue collection process, that bidding process will be done on an annual basis. What it means, if there is zamindar A, zamindar B, zamindar C, zamindar D, then everyone will be asked that how much revenue you will collect from there. Supposedly earlier the particular territory was giving you 20,000 rupees. Now zamindar A says I will collect 30,000, zamindar B says I will collect 50,000, zamindar C says I will collect 70,000, and zamindar 4 goes on to say that I will give the state 1 lakh rupees. Now for getting that 1 lakh rupees, zamindar 4 has to collect at least 1,20,000 rupees. He will also make a profit of his own. Now suppose that property which was territory which was giving earlier 20,000 rupees, now you have to fetch 1,20,000 rupees. How the hell you are going to do such a big task? The only thing you are surely going to do is exploit the people. Ask them to pay more than what they are capable of. And if you will start taking more money from people then what they think is state deserves, very soon people will start rebelling, and that where rebellion started. So Izaredari system was, although in the text code, it was there in the text code from the 16th century itself, it was never used before the 18th century. It was in 1712. It was in 1712 when Jahandar Shah came to power after the demise of Bahadur Shah first. Then Jahandar Shah's Prime Minister, Zulfikar Khan, saw that the Mughal exchequer had no money left. There was no money left in the Mughal coffers. If now there is no money, then you have one option. If you don't have money, you won't be able to pay people. If you are not going to pay people, they will rebel. And if they will rebel, then your administration will go away, your sultanate, your badshahat, everything will be gone. The other way is to exploit people, take more money from them and maintain yourself in order. The second one sounded better for them at the moment, because if they were able to maintain money wise themselves for some period, later on they can remove this Izaredari system, surely. And that's why you will see that Zulfikar Khan, under these distressing conditions in 1713, introduced the Izaredari system for the first time. But then it was never removed. It went on to be like that and that and that in Bengal, in other subas also. And it actually created the worsening situation for Indian peasantry, Indian farmers and all the people at the bottommost strata of the society in the then so-called Mughal Hindustan. You will see that Britishers, when they will come in, they will start their permanent settlement based on this idea only. There are characteristic features of Izaredari system which was then as it is taken into the system of permanent settlement. And we will explain that while talking about permanent settlement. So I hope you got a basic idea of Izaredari system, and this is a fact that when it was first introduced needed to be known. So you always remember this thing, that it was already in textbooks of the Mughal Empire from the 16th century, although it was implemented on the ground in 1713. Fine. Next one, Mal Zamini system. This is a tweak of Izaredari system and could be asked any year. Now I hope you must be knowing this, that the Subedar of Bengal in 1720s, your syllabus specifically defines that we have to discuss about India in the 1720s and 1730s, like in the starting portion of the 18th century. And at this time, Bengal was the richest suba, the richest province of the Mughal Empire. Now, if so was the condition, we have to know, it's needed to be learned that how the Subedars of Bengal were performing so better than rest of the Subedars of the Mughal Empire. What was so innovative in Bengal? A lot of more things were there. For example, proto-industrialization has taken place in Bengal itself by that time. But the most important thing was this tweak in the Izaredari system, that is Mal Zamini system. Now to understand you need to understand that how this whole Izaredari system, the corruption in Izaredari system used to happen. So a few minutes back I just explained you that suppose that Zamindar D has committed that he will pay ₹1,00,000 to the state exchequer, to the government, the Mughal government. But obviously he is incapable to bring such a huge amount of money because it's impossible. Even if you take all 100% of people's money, still you won't be able to collect 1,00,000 and he also has to make some profit of his own. So what he is going to do? So what usually in these conditions the zamindars used to do, they used to pay some money illegally to the local subedar, to the local in charge in the sarkar and the pargana, and the local in charge used to write a report that because of some disaster, natural disaster or some thing which is natural cause, the zamindar was not able to pay the money. And because it's natural cause, nothing will happen against the zamindar, and whatsoever he must have collected 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, he will divide it between himself and most of the time the subedars. You will see because the reason for the later on rise of the regional power so much was this only, because of the ill revenue collection system of the Izaredari system, while the Mughal exchequer was getting in a more economic distressing situation, at the same time the regional rulers were getting richer and richer with each passing day. Now the then Subedar of Bengal, whose name was Murshid Quli Khan, okay, Murshid Quli Khan. Murshid came up with a innovative idea. What the idea was? Murshid came up with this idea that look, it's all cool Izaredari, but like we know there is inefficiency, and no matter even if I'll declare myself to be incorruptible, even my in charge of the Pargana, my Chaudharis, my Rai Chaudharis, all those people will keep on taking the corrupt money and will write illegal or wrong reports in favor of the local zamindars. So he came up with this concept of Mal Zamini. Now Zameen in Persian doesn't actually mean plot of land. Now in common parlance of the word in present time also we always say Zameen का मतलब क्या होता है जी, Zameen मतलब plot का टुकड़ा, ठीक है, एक ज़मीन का टुकड़ा मतलब, but that is not how it is. Zameen was something which was a assured guarantee in Persian. It traces a etymology over there. Now back in the day, what is the most assured guarantee you can keep with someone? Jewelry? No. Piece of gold? No. That can be taken away. A car? That was no car, but still if a car or vehicle or everything can be moved away. But a plot of land is something which will always be there. So it's a most certain form of guarantee you can keep with someone as a piece of guarantee. Fine. Now that's why he came up with this idea that suppose that Zamindar D has stated that he will pay ₹1,00,000. Fine. So Murshid will tell him that you keep a plot of land as a guarantee for that ₹1,00,000, and if you're not going to pay it, okay, I will seize that property and earn my money. Because of this, the whole system got somewhat transparent, and the overall revenue collection of the Bengal Suba increased by at least 3 folds. So much so that Murshid at the time when Aurangzeb was alive was paying Aurangzeb 1.4 crore rupees in revenue. That was almost at the time 40% of the overall revenue of the Mughal Darbar. Okay, it was just coming from Bengal. So that's what Mal Zamini system was, that it was a tweak in the Izaredari system through which guarantees were kept against the terms set for the Izaredars. Fine. So that is Mal Zamini system, you need to know. Now there is a concept called as Lakhraj land. Now Lakhraj land is something which was there which you will be reading if you read your books in the new NCERT also. This word has been mentioned vis-a-vis Mir Qasim in 1760s, but the system was already there in Mughal times in great use. The idea is very simple, These were the a piece of land or some territory which were given to people as inam, as prizes. For example, if someone is a very good wrestler, now if he won't have a constant source of income, he will have to stop wrestling and have to do something for his family. So the state keeps this thing in mind and provide them, okay, you have this piece of land, so you will have a source of revenue and you can focus on your wrestling. These kind of things will happen even now also. For example, if you see, if someone is a good hockey player or cricket players को जरूरत नहीं पड़ती अब, but hockey players या फिर you are good at gymnastics or you're good in boxing, so the first thing government does is you will get a job, a government job that will give you assurance, a constant flow of income, so that you can focus more and more on your game or whatever you are good at. Okay. So this is the kind of Lakhraj land. The Inam land is very close to Lakhraj land. Lakhraj land could also be given to the priestly class and all those things. So it was given every left, right and center. The Subedars, the Badshah also, everyone in the Mughal Sultanate, Mughal Darbar used to give Lakhraj land to people to get a faith of those people, get an allegiance of those people, and that was also done. So when Mir Qasim came to power, it is somewhere around after 1759, after Battle of Chinsurah, when the Britishers with the help of Mir Qasim won against the Dutch East India Company in 1759 and removed Mir Zafar and appointed Mir Qasim as the new Nawab of Bengal. Very soon Mir Qasim also started facing the same difficulty with Mir Jafar faced. That is, the Britishers were highly corrupt. They were not paying the toll tax that is called as Dastak. And so what he did, he decided that it will be better to move his capital to somewhere else and strengthen himself. The money which the Bengal Suba has lost has to be redone in certain form and way. So it was decided that it has to be redone. Now, how it will be redone? How he is going to renovate his economic positioning? So for that he need to have a new consistent source of income, and that is where he brought the idea of Lakhraj land more in prominence, because what he did, he went on and kind of nationalized the Lakhraj land. All those pieces of land which right from the time of Murshid Quli Khan have been given to a lot of individuals in Bengal Suba, he just took the land back and he raised a lot of money through it. While sitting in Munger, which was his new capital, he decided to build his new army, his new administration using this Lakhraj land. Although he was not that successful because of the Patna massacre which happened in 1763, and subsequently he had to escape for his life, run for his life, and he went to Awadh, and then he formed the tripartite alliance and fought against the Britishers in Battle of Buxar, and he lost, and he actually escaped before the battles even started, and he died back in very puny condition in 1877 in Delhi only. But that's about Mir Qasim. Specifically you have to focus on the Lakhraj land and its definition. Fine. Now the term called as Dastak. Now what is Dastak? This is again, the origin of Dastak goes back to 1651. Why 1651? Now we have to go even before, again medieval time, to understand the modern thing. In 1651, the Subedar of Bengal was the brother of Aurangzeb, Shah Suja. Okay, and in 1651, the Badshah Hindustan was Shah Jahan. Okay. And Shah Suja, his son, was the Subedar of Bengal. In 1651, when the Britishers were a mere trading company and nothing more than it, they got a permission called as the Nishan, or the permission with the official heading Nishan of Shah Suja of 1651, where it was declared that the Britishers were annually paid 3,000 rupees to carry on their trade in whole of Bengal, or Bengal which was under control of Mughals. So why it was done so? It was done so because the Mughals knew that a lot of trade which was happening between the natives and the British East India Company was happening in barter system. That is, the Britishers are bringing in some amount of spices from Southeast Asia and selling it in return of, transacting it in return of silk from Bengal. Now if that is going on, then where exactly you are going to tax the people? कितने किलो सिल्क और कितने मीटर स्पाइसेस. हाँ, नहीं कंफ्यूजन हो गया ना. So that is the point. So tax rate is impossible to decide in barter system, and that's why the government decided. That what we have to do, we have to put a one-time payment scheme, and that's why it was decided for 3,000 rupees annually. The British East India Company will get the rights to trade throughout the Suba of Bengal, the province of Bengal, on annual basis. Good for them, great. Then the problem further evolved. This thing went like this till 1719, when Farrukh Shiar was the emperor, was the Badshah of Mughal Sultanate. And this time the Britishers approached him that allow us to retain the payment of 3,000 rupees only. And he allowed them. This is called as famous the Golden Farman for Farrukh Shiar, through which he said that the company will be allowed to trade throughout the Bengal Suba in return for an annual payment of 3,000 rupees. Okay, he also wrote some other things in the Farrukh Shiar's Golden Farman. For example, gold point minting rights was given to company in Bombay. Surat, the trade through Surat was also made a one-time payment thing for 10,000 rupees. All these things were done. But after this, the things became complicated, because look, suppose your grandfather has rented out a property of your family at 3,000 rupees a month in 1951. Now in 2017, would you or your parents will also accept the 3,000 rupees payment only? No. The price is more. You will expect, if I was getting 3,000 rupees back in 1951, I should get at least 3 or 4 crore rupees a month or a year for that same property. But you are still getting the same amount. And that is where the problem started, because now after 1720, this 3,000 rupees became so less that the Bengali trader found it impossible to compete with the Britishers. The British East India Company or the individual officials started illegally purchasing stuff for goods for their own self instead of company, and started transporting it in the name of the company. When they were going through what we now call as toll tax nakas, we have the toll tax naka, toll tax stations all around India on the highway. Back then also there were stations. They were main big killas, and through them you have to pass. And at that time, obviously, you don't have the fast tag system, so you need to have a letter. And this letter, that was called a nishan. That nishan, you have to knock on the gate of that main door of the killa, and you have to show the nishan, and then only you are allowed to go forward. And when you knock and you showed the papers, that was called as Dastak. You showed the papers and it was in the name of British East India Company, so you were allowed to move forward without paying any taxes. At the same time, the Indian native traders had to pay a huge chunk of tax. So what really happened? The Britishers were able to sell Indian product in Calcutta at a cheaper price than the Indians themselves were selling. Is this acceptable? The local trader is selling a local good at a higher price than the foreign company. Then what will happen? The locals will obviously get irritated. They will go to their king, they will go to their governor, the Badshah, the Subedar. They did so, and that actually played a very vital role in Battle of Plassey, and before that the actions taken by Siraj ud-Dawla, the then Subedar of Bengal in 1756 against the British East India Company. So Dastak issue became one of the most prominent reason for the Battle of Plassey, Battle of Chinsurha, and Battle of Buxar. Okay, so that's why it is very, very, very important, and it traces its origin to 1651, and the issue went on till 1765, when the Britishers actually got the right to collect the revenue of whole of Bengal through the Treaty of Allahabad. Fine, so that's the thing about Dastak you should know. Now, this will be all for this lecture. I hope this should have made a lot of sense to you. It gave you a basic idea that how you can learn about the terminologies without getting confused here and there. And all these things I have told you is there. The link for the PDFs is there in the YouTube video below the video, and the reference for the videos or this whole terms is also given over there, so don't have to get confused that what actually it means or not or something else. Okay, so this is what. Now let's catch up in the next lecture and we'll discuss few more topics then. Fine. Thank you and have a nice day.